we'll keep right on and going. And okay. What do you want to know first?
Well, this afternoon, down here at the Nussbaum here.
Nussbaum?
Nussbaum here, that's what they call this little room, the wine room. Right?
Yeah.
And this is Frank Nussbaum.
Yeah.
Today is September the 19th, 1995. And we're recording Frank here for some interesting experiences that he had and protect some of the history. And Bill Hine is going to video us for our historic cheesemaking center down here in People. And we really want to think this is unique because we'd like to bring out something that many of the Swiss that migrated to other countries, that they hired them, and maybe we can start with that, Frank.
Okay.
Can you maybe start with your folks? What part of Switzerland were they from? Do you remember?
They're burners.
The Berners, yeah, also Berners. And then I'll let you go ahead from there.
No, my dad was making cheese in there. He was in 18 years in there.
Okay, but from Bern he went to where?
Well, I went to
Russia? East?
Russia.
Russia.
Yeah. He was down in the southern part of Russia.
Now what, in the southern part?
Yeah.
Okay. Now were there a lot of other Swiss down there too?
Well, they had quite a few of them
You know, some of them were farmers then?
there.
And
No, they were all cheesemakers.
cheesemakers for that area down there. Now what time of the, what year was that?
Well, you got me, I was a little guy yet.
But about what time frame are we talking about? 19?
Mid-1900 and something.
Like 1915?
Yeah. No, it was later than that. About 1912.
1912, and there, they went to Russia, and you remember some of those stories. Can you tell us about that, your experiences over there, or what your father had told you about that?
Oh, I can remember a lot of it. He used to, Dad used to have his own cows and everything in there. He made cheese in there for 18 years. And he had these native women milking the cows, and men didn't do the work.
How many cows do you think that they made at that time?
Oh, he had about 100 of them. And they milked them morning and evenings.
And then what type of cheese did they make?
Make Swiss cheese.
Which is the old Emmentaler.
Yeah. Made two of them, 2 at night and 2 in the morning. I sold the cheese once a year.
And where did you sell it to? The government or
Yeah, the government got it all. We didn't have no roads or nothing. They had these wooden wagon wheels, you know. You had to go over creeks and get stuck, and you had to unload it over the dumps, you know, to get out of it again.
Well, how did they bring the milk then?
Well, we just got the milk from our own cows there.
It was right there. The factory was
Yeah.
right beside the
Yeah.
farm, and it was like a.
Yeah.
And they still have in England in some areas yet, what they call them farm factories.
Yeah.
All right, then, how long were they there? You say 18 years.
Yeah, he was in there 18 years.
And then what happened then?
Yeah, well, when our roofing broke out, he lost everything. The dad was a rich man. If it wouldn't have been for the Germans, he'd have never made it out.
So the revolution came, and can you remember anything about that? Or
Well, they come up, they took everything you had. They didn't ask no questions.
so you just had to pack up and take what you had and.
Yeah, you had to sneak out in the night. You had to go down the Black Sea on a boat and get over there to Switzerland.
And you say some of the German people or the natives helped you then to get over, get out of
They
there?
all helped us to get out of it, yeah.
Well, how many was in your family at that time?
There was 5 of us, 5 kids and 1 our dad.
And you were around 5 and
About 6, something like that.
and then were you the youngest then, or?
No, I'm the second oldest one.
So, well, we had all them babies and had to go down through the
Oh, yeah. Oh, we made it.
Black Sea and then back to Switzerland.
Yeah.
Well, then, do you recall that now he came over here? Did you stay in Switzerland or did you?
Oh, we stayed a year in Switzerland. Dad got a job in a Swiss factory out there. And you gotta have a visa, you might get into the United States. You gotta wait till you got that.
Did you have to have a sponsor at that time, or did you just
No.
came? You didn't have to have a sponsor,
Just a visa.
just a reason.
That's what they should have today, that's nowadays too. But that's all these guys into that.
Well, they just come in here, all right, so then you came right here to Monroe, then, your family?
Oh, I was in the Gladys most of the time. Dad made cheese up there for a while.
Or did he go right into the factory, or did he work for a while, or?
Well, he worked for a while.
Who did he work for?
I couldn't tell you that.
But the factory was around the Glarus that you were.
Papa Groves.
Factory, the road factory, and that's, we're from the Glarus.
That's northeast there.
So you were on the Popular Grove, and then how long were you there then?
7 years. Dad was making 7 years cheese there. I wasn't home very long. I kept working on all the time.
And where did you work then?
I worked in cheese factories. Off and on. I got tired of cheese factories and worked on a farm.
All right.
I got tired of farming, so I went back to cheese making.
All right, then, well, then you learned from the bottom up, and then you make cheese then yourself then?
Well,
What was your first factory?
Rock Hill.
And about what year was that?
In the 50s.
And this Rock Hill is located right up around the Glarus also?
No, that's never heard Rock.
I've never heard of Rock Hill. Well, how many cheese did you make there?
I made 5 cheese. Wife and I made 5 cheese and hauled milk into the truck.
So the wife helped down at the
Well,
factory?
she could make cheese as good as I could. Well, if I didn't have a hired man, I had to take the truck and go and pick up the milk. And she had to take care of it.
But you must have had somehow, one hired man, I mean, for 5 wheels, didn't you? That's a lot of cheese washing there, and milk all the other.
Well, I got 2 other guys to do wash cheese for me.
Well, who were those 2 fellows? We just interviewed Ernie Allman here. That was something that started right after or through the war, this people that went out to wash cheese.
Oh, one was Maynard. I can't even say his last name. Forgot it. I forget those things.
So you hired a couple of men to come in to wash the cheese.
Yeah, once a week.
And what did you pay? Did you have to pay them by the wheel?
Yeah, I paid for the wheel, yeah. I don't even know what the wheel they charge anymore.
Well, it was between 10 cents, I think.
Yeah.
Ernie said he got 12 or something.
Okay.
God helped him out. I remember when I washed cheese back in, that was the early 50s there, on the side of the grain factory there, 10 cents a wheel. Can you move it up? So you was at the Popular Grove, about how long?
He was out there 7 years, and I don't know what year when you went farming then after that. I didn't know long. I worked out since I was 13 years old.
I got it, left home at 13 and went out working.
Yeah, I worked out.
And you said you and your wife are at this factory, what did I forgot here?
Rock Hill?
The Rock Hill. And how long were you there?
About 2.5 years.
And where did you go from there?
Well, I moved to Monroe,
Monroe and
and I worked for Prepack.
back. Well, can you tell me some of the things, when you grew up, did you go to school, country school down around the Glarus there?
Yeah, I went to country school. Went as far as I could go to. I had to earn my own way to go through, you know.
Well, what kind of a truck did you have for hauling out? An open truck or?
Yeah, open truck or Chevrolet. Had to haul milk all the way back in the empty can sometime too.
And then later on, did you put a tank on or?
No, not that time yet.
But you,
When I sold out down there, the other guy could do that.
took the way back right in the same cans and,
No, and I had a weight tank out.
well, you did have a
Weight
tank.
tank out.
Can washer and
Can washer and all that.
so we made 5 wheels. Where did you sell your cheese to then?
Farmers. They all had farmers, yeah.
Who was running that at that time?
Darn.
Dorn was there
Yeah.
already in the pictures. Dorn Swagger, freaking out the famous man. And you got married?
Oh, yeah.
When did you get married?
1937.
How many children have you got?
3, 2 girls and a boy.
Any of them in the dairy business or? Cheesemaking or?
No, he didn't want it. I got a son that's, he's the oldest, he works on farm fleet.
Oh, that's right, he collects all those,
Antiques.
Antiques. He's got more, he got started cheese center of his own, I believe.
Well, he got some more the other day.
Well, you were at this gala here the other night, and what'd you think of that?
It was all right. I liked it.
Well, let's see. What else can you tell me about some of the farmers you had? Did you always get along pretty good with the farmers?
Oh, some of them, not at all.
Well,
You couldn't tell them the day and night between them guys. Some of them had it. You know, not just as good as I do.
well, that was part of it, you know, they all had the different ideas and,
Some you could please and some you couldn't.
what percent, did you get, with the,
I got 13. Yeah.
that was the going rate, I think, when you
Yeah,
were
most of
13,
them.
some of them got 14, I understand, but,
It was very few of them we got it though.
you have pretty good luck making cheese, did you?
Oh, yeah. And mostly A's and B's.
Did you have to have much problems, with the farm milk, or you have to go out and see a few of them, or?
I had to go out and see a few of them. They didn't like that.
Well, I think that was the secret of making cheese. We had to have good milk.
Yeah, well, they couldn't see it that way. The guy that was there before me, he didn't have nothing worthwhile. I straightened him out, I got pretty good luck out of him.
What was some of the problems you think about in the cooling or?
Well, they just didn't take care of it the way they should have. And some guys didn't drain their milk either, strain it, send it the other way. So the state man got in there and he sort of cleaned their clock for them.
Well, that's quite a story here, all the way to Russia and down through the Black Sea and back over through Switzerland and then to America.
Well, the only thing we only had 2 weeks of winter everywhere.
In southern Russia.
Yeah, it was down in Columbus there, Tiflis, what you call it. Got snow-capped mountains and they're on there too, you know.
But this new Glarus, what did you think of that? The weather up here, the winters. Did you make cheese in the winter?
Oh, no, not too much.
Some every other day? Or?
Yeah, some other day, yeah.
But you always made the wheel sweets.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make any other type of cheese?
I made block and break too.
That was mostly in the wintertime,
Yeah.
out of the kettle?
Yeah.
Or did you have a vat?
Oh, I had a kettles.
Out of the kettles in the wintertime, you just...
In spring I made, when I didn't have enough milk, I used to make a break for farmers.
And that was like in a mold of 3 or
Yeah, mold of 3.
wooden mold, and then you
Yeah.
cut them in 2 and
Yeah.
put them in the brine. Did you use the Swiss starter for that, or did you get another culture for that?
Oh, I used Swiss starter. It worked out pretty good on me
Well, it had a good flavor then.
that way. Sure. Farmers like it right now.
Well, I can't think of much of anything else.
Frank, can I interrupt for a moment?
Yes.
I'd like to get some dates correct. That was the Bolshevik, the 1917 revolution that drove your family out, right?
Yeah.
So you would have come out in 17 or 18, went to Switzerland, and then come to this country around 1920?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Well, 1920 we come over to the United States.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Well, what do you think of you're looking back, was it rewarding making cheese, the experiences that you had?
Oh, I didn't mind making cheese, I liked it. My wife did too.
So as far as you're concerned, it was a benefit, it was a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of hard work, but so what?
Everybody else left home at 13. Well, I want to thank you for coming, Frank. And,
No, my wife could make cheese as good as I could.
well, how did you take the cheese out? Did you take it out by yourself with the dip cloth in the bakery, or did your wife,
Did well.
or did your wife?
She had to stand there outside of the kettle, and when I come around, she had to take a hold of it.
But you reached over yourself, and
Oh, yeah.
did she hold your feet, or did you
No,
have a block?
I had a block.
You had a block, you just stuck the feet up and went around. pulled it up and,
A shrivel was like that off of that, right?
well, can you tell me what a scrabble is?
That's the end of what's left in the kettle yet.
And that's the art is when you get to it. How big did you say it?
Something like that.
Baseball. You slip that cloth underneath there and only get that much. That's the art. And why didn't you have your wife help go around or somebody else?
Well, she didn't want to do that. I was better off doing it myself. If you didn't dare to turn it, I'll flip them right on now.
Pull it over.
Yeah, the kettle.
Because you get a nisser, right?
Yeah.
And everything.
So I told her to stay on the other side of the kettle and take that cloth out of my mouth and hold it till I got there.
What time did you get up in the morning?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, and then how late did you work?
Well, every day I work 5, 6 o'clock at night. Sometimes.
And then turn cheese after supper, then
Yeah. Burlap when we got
Lutschlag, as they call it.
looks for it.
Now, can you tell what Lutschlag is? Why do you do that last?
Well,
Lutschlag means to make
You
it
put on
thick.
dry cloth, cheese cloths on.
And they
Flip them over and then press them again.
And can you tell me what the word Lutschlag, can you translate that for me?
That's the only way I can do it. And I know.
But I mean, the word.
Well, that's, you take a cheese at night after you burlap it. You have to turn them and put on some dry cloth. Then you turn them over, put another dry cloth on the other side too. Then you press them. Then let them go till morning and 6, from 4 o'clock and take the stamps off. Put that number on it. Cut the rind off and put them in the salt brine.
Back to the Lutschlag, I got to bring that up because it's a word that everybody uses.
Well,
I don't know how to translate it myself, but you took the two cloths off, right?
Well, the first you put on about 3 of them after you get them out of the kettle.
And there's a lot of weight on it.
Yeah, you got to press them then. Then about 3 o'clock, about 4 o'clock, I turn the cheese once more, and I put some dry cloth on it. That's what they call Lutschlag.
Well, what I'm trying to say, and maybe you can help me here, correct it, but Lutschlag means naked. Lut means naked.
Yeah.
You take the cloths off them around the outside and just have the one at the bottom.
And one on the top. Yeah, that's it.
I wonder where they ever got that name, Lut.
Well, that's what they always call it.
Yeah, which means translated naked.
Yeah.
Took all the diapers off around all of them, and then put just the burlap.
Yeah.
They used to call that Lutschlag. I never did figure that out. Well, it's been an interesting conversation.
That's all I ever knew that they always called it.
Yeah, I know. That was the last turning.
Yeah. And in the morning, you take the lid off and take the burlaps off and put the factory number and date on it. And you had to turn them again and put the date on the other side too.
And then you made cheese 7 days a week, or
Yeah, 7 days a week.
do you ever remember making it twice a day, except there in Russia?
Oh, my dad used to make it twice a day, but I never did.
Cooling in the milk cans, and
Yeah.
where most of the farmers have cement tanks, or do they have some?
Well, they had some copper, aluminum tanks too, where they stuck cans in.
How many cans did your truck hold?
Oh, about 90.
Double decker?
Oh, yeah.
Up on top of the way tank.
Yeah.
The tank you had up front, and
And sometimes I had to go back, if it wasn't quite done, I had to go back and pick up the rest of it again. Then I finally got a hired man and it helped me. Well, when he was late, I had to go out there, I couldn't wait for him.
did you ever lose any lids?
No,
That was a big thing. Those butterfly lids, they like to fly off
yeah,
sometimes.
well, I know what you mean. When I put them on tight, so they didn't go anyplace.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
We have the pleasure having you here, and
Oh, I could tell you a lot more yet.
well, if you think of something, any kind of, what kind of social life did you have? Of course, you didn't have much time, but what, visiting the neighbors, or?
Oh, yeah. Except in Russia, we had all these foreign people, they were natives. They did all the milking and everything that the men never did anything. They always went and stole at night. They got home okay if they did one of those, one guy left that those. There was no rules or regulations or laws or anything like that wrong, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, little guys like that, you know, they carried knives and swords and bullets across the chest, and I had a rifle.
And when they saw something they wanted, they just took it.
Yeah. Oh, we always had to have dogs and guards to take care of the cows at night, put on wolves. And the wolves, we had a lot of wolves, got there, Siberian wolves in there. They're bigger than one that you got in here, you know. You used to rip them apart. And one day, my dad said too, a guy had a horse with a colt, tied it on the end of the factory, and one morning he come in and the colt was gone. Remember standing empty. Well, it was a rough country.
Well, like when you got to New Paris, did you go to church or dances, or I'm trying to take up a little social life here?
Oh, yeah, I used to go to dance with the Paris once in a while.
Wedding dances, or did they have any farm dances, barn dances?
Oh, they used to have a lot of these house dances. Just the neighbors used to come and all that. My wife was Swiss too.
And was she from around Barron also, or
No, she was from Monticello. She was a native born.
met her over here then?
Her parents were farmers.
And what was her name?
Hammerley.
Excuse me?
Hammerley.
Emmerly.
Yeah.
That's the name that's still around here.
Oh, yeah. He's got a cousin that lives up under Blair's home there. But I named that too, you know.
Well, any thing that may be kind of an interest that you think about, or something humorous, or, you know, that,
Well, I forget a lot of that stuff, you know. It's too bad we didn't have no cameras to take pictures of all that stuff, you know. It could have been interesting to see.
on the way, did you always have enough weight?
The cheese factory?
Yeah.
Not always. They always complain about that. Some guy was getting more than the other guy was.
Well, Frank.
Well, I guess I gotta go too. I gotta pick up my grandson yet.
Right here on your own.
Yeah. He comes to my house in the morning, I take him to school, and at night I won't get him again. And they pick him up after school. I know there's a school teacher at the high school.
Could you talk English when you went to school here, when you came over here? You started school here.
And talk Swiss.
What kind of school teacher? Did she understand what she Swiss do, maybe? But
No, they couldn't understand it. Yeah, they learned English, and then we could talk.
I suppose your folks couldn't speak English either when they came to start with.
Oh, my dad could talk a little, but not too much. My mother never wanted to learn it. He just didn't want to talk Swiss, and that was it.
I think it was kind of a tradition, don't you think, that they wanted the children to learn their native
Oh, yeah.
language? And so figured that when you went to school, you would get back to learning English anyhow, and they wanted to protect that language and have their children
Take it up.
Yeah, the native language. I spoke to so many that when they went to school, that if father and mother were both Swiss ethnic speaking, they talk Swiss.
I know my wife and I used to talk Swiss all the time. When I had the first two kids, they couldn't talk English when they went to school.
But I bet they're glad today because
Well, the older two can understand a lot of it. But the younger one, she can't get heads or tails out of it.
well, you've seen a lot of changes here around the world with the Blair's and these factories.
My youngest daughter married is sign painter down here. Makes up signs in the world.
Oh,
Yeah. He's from Albany. He can't talk Swiss. He's a native of the United States.
well, I think it's kind of dying out the language of, well, now the Swiss are Norwegians and Irish, German, and
They're all mixture.
called Americans, I guess, right? That's when you're called an American.
Yeah.
All right, Frank. I'll keep your grandson waiting.
Well, I got time yet.
You got time yet? Anything else we can talk about?
Not that I know of right now.
And then we'll cut her off, okay?
Yeah,
And about to be a while.
yeah, be close.
Married, and so mom and dad came back to America. And that was, I would have to say, that was probably in about 1922 or 1923. And they, and then my brother came along in 1923. That's the year that my brother was born, Henry.
Out on this farm then?
On this farm.
Which is north of Blair's?
Yeah, and all it was in between Blair's and Monroe, Monticello in that area. And then and I was born in 1925, and my sister Clara was born in 1927, and my youngest sister Gladys was 1929. Then of course the Depression came in, and things got very, very difficult. And father lost his farm in the early 30s, and he really didn't
Those
know
were hard times.
Yes,
you know,
very difficult times. I remember him selling 60-pound feeder pigs for $1.50 a piece. That's what they was bringing, and he felt a little happy with that. But anyway, what had happened is he lost his farm, lost all his personal property, and he ended up working on a farm as a married hired man down by Clarno, which is south of Monroe. And he did this.
And you lived with him down there? And,
Yes.
You helped on the farm too then?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I was just pretty young. I mean, of course you did. But I can remember helping, when I was 5, 6 years old. We didn't have no electricity, had no tractor. We used all horse equipment. I planted a lot of corn with horses, cultivated corn with horses. I made hay with the old hay loader, and loose hay in the barn, no bales. Baler wasn't even heard of that time, other than a stationary baler.
You went to country school then, I suppose?
Yes, I went to Greenbush School. What had happened is that he had worked out several years, and he had, and Franklin D. Roosevelt came out with this federal land bank, helped these
Sure.
young farmers get going again, and had a financing program, so it was capable of my father buying another farm, which he did, east of Monroe, 3 miles east of Monroe, Sylvester Township. And he lived there, and raised us children there. And Greenbush School was only 3 miles. We walked there every morning and night.
Did you learn Swiss to home then, or?
When I went to school, I was probably about 5 years old when I first grade, and I couldn't speak a word English. And the teacher had a difficult time with me, because we always spoke the native tongue. But now it's just the reverse. I have problems with the Swiss. But anyway, I stayed there with that till I was, and it was still tough. I mean, you know, I remember Mom buying flour, and I think it was like 60 or 70 pound bags printed on one side, and then she sewed nice dresses for my sisters out of it. And that's how we got along. You know, when we fried down butcher hogs and fried down in these stone cracks, you know, poured full of hot lard. In the wintertime, I got cold, we'd dig them out of the grease.
Sure.
And anyway,
Refrigerators or?
but anyway, it was difficult for my parents.
How did you get involved in cheesemaking then?
And well, that's what I'm getting at now. And so I was 12 years old, and Paul Foster, which was running the Green Cheese Factory, which is the Chuli Cheese Factory. They call it the Green, but it's right southeast of Monroe, about 4 miles maybe. And Paul was looking for some help. I didn't know the people, but I heard it through Reinhard Miller. And Reinhard, I don't know how the information got to me one way or the other. I went down there and Paul hired me, 12 years old. I left home, and I never went home after that other than to visit. I worked for Paul.
Was this in the summertime then?
Summer, winter, year round. He would pay me $15 a month. That's $0.50 a day during the summer months. And in the winter months, I got board and room when I went to school. I would go to school at. We leave about school started at 8:30 in the morning, and it was out at 3. And then I'd work from 3:30. I'd be home at 3:30 at the plant, and I'd make boxes and salt Limburger cheese and wrap Limburger cheese till 9, 10 o'clock at night. I've done that all the way through. And
That
then
only all Limburger.
yeah, at that time, yes. And then I was there. Oh, I can't remember, but I think it was about 15 maybe. From I was 14. Then I went up to Belleville, and I hired out to Mr. Lauenberger. He was a German, he was brick and Limburger, and I worked for him about a year. He was an old German, and he was very tight. You know, he didn't want to spend any money. I remember he used to have the pump jack. We had all water was pumped with a pump jack.
The gasoline motor or?
No, it run off of a line shaft. And he had a little steam engine in there, and that's how he would run his pump jack with a line shaft and pulley. And our separator was run that way, where there was an ivory pulley on the old lawn separator. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And to get speed, we just keep screwing this belt in. And then we had everything in the plant.
A lot of belt dressing to it.
Oh God, yes. And the old brass Viking pump was run by a line shaft. Everything was run, you know, it only had one pump.
You know, they lasted a long time. They still around, aren't they?
Oh, I think so. Yes, they are.
That was really a pump.
Yes, it was.
That was quite an invention.
Yeah, and the milk was distributed into the vats or in the kettles by an eave trough, a galvanized eave trough. That's what we used to just run it from one tank to another, and by gravity flow. There was no
weight tank.
Yeah.
For the weight, I mean, to where you weigh milk.
Yeah. From there, it went right into the van. Well, I'll tell you, I stayed with him in Lauenberger about a year, and I remember he had a family. He had one girl and 2 boys, and he always felt that a hard man's a hard man. So therefore, you know, if we had milk to drink, he would always skim the milk first, because the hard man was not supposed to have any fat. That was money. So he would skim it before But their family had, so, and we
You
have,
were drinking 2% before they even thought about it here.
that's exactly what happened. And I remember him, we have cornmeal, mush, and that type of thing for meals. And it used to disturb me because in the evenings after the hired man was in bed, then their family would get their big feed. But we wasn't entitled to that because we was the hired man. We wasn't part of the family. And that's the way it was at that time.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a general thing. There was a commoner and then there's professional people, and especially in Germany.
Right.
More so than, but there was that class distinction.
That's exactly. And I stayed there about a year, and then I left. And then Henry, my brother, had started working in the cheese business. He was working for Mr. Hillflicker up here at the Jordan Center Cheese Company up here by Monticello. And he worked for Mr. Hillflicker for about, he was there about a year. That was making Swiss at that time. And he was like only 15, and he was washing with Swiss. You know, they weighed 180.
Yeah, you people had the biggest
That's
frame per people, but how you did that, I don't know.
So I don't know. Then me and Henry, I remember it was in the fall. Me and Henry decided. And I think Henry was 16 and I wasn't 15 yet, and we decided to see what the rest of the country's like. And we had bought a used car. I remember we had a Model A. We bought it, and then we paid $35 for it. We thought we had a Cadillac, you know. And we took this Model A and we went up to north of Madison, up to Sun Prairie, Beaver Dam area, and we got a job there in a cheese factory working for Mr. Hessler. That was a cheddar operation. It was in the country, Granite Hill Cheese Company.
And where is this located about?
This is at Hubbleton, Wisconsin, which would be
Madison about.
Madison. You'd have to be between Watertown and Madison.
All right.
I just have to put you in areas,
But it's up in the
about
center
midnight.
country up in there.
And I can remember we used to have a roadhouse there. Me and Hank used to go there. They had slot machines. You know, it was slot machines were still. So history's repeating itself now. I guess I should look at it. But we used to. I was 15 at that time. I used to play slot machines in these bars, and there was nothing said about me being underage or anything. You know, it didn't mean nothing at that time.
Where did you stay, Clarence, and you and Henry?
Well, we at this plant it was a 3-story building, and we up in the pack house, what they used to call the pack house, where you had the supplies, the wood boxes and stuff, or cheddar, and that's where we had a bed up there, and no heat, of course. In the morning we'd get up and our blanket would be all frost from breathing. You know, it was really cold. But you got accustomed to that. And we stayed there. I worked with Mr. Hasper till he got hurt.
How much milk were you running there, do you think? About that time?
We was probably running about 20,000 pounds, 2 10,000-pound vats.
You're talking about 1940.
It was in 39 or 40, somewhere in that area. Because I remember the press was all made out of wood, and you would elevate one side of the press, put your cheddars in it, a later cheddar, 60-pound cheddars in it, and then you would take this block, and then the weight of the gravity of the weight would press the cheese.
So they didn't have here.
All wood. There was not no hydraulic system like we have today.
But you had the jack in the back, right?
Yeah, tighten it up, and then we give the weight down on the other end, and then it was all.
And cheddar, that 60-pound is what they call the original cheddar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were saying twins and daisies, but the 60-pound is what you see in these boxes. What a lot of people are familiar
And I
with.
remember we had a lot of problems with bloated, gassy cheese at that time. We would slab them, and then we would turn these slabs sometimes until midnight. It was 6 hours just to try to work the gases out. You know. I know.
And the slab got about that.
Especially in the fall when the silage was a big problem.
And the slabs got about that thin. They just had like
They were
pulling the sheet.
Yeah, they were thin almost, yeah.
And then the gas worked out, right?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did work itself out. And of course, you'd have to heat the pan up every so often, and to keep somewhat the temperature up there.
Then, of course, you had a cover, did you have a cover to?
Yeah, we had an old canvas with slats across that we would slide it across to keep, you know, if you remember that.
These are the things you gotta remember, because that's the way it was back then.
Yes.
Well, you didn't have that much heat in the factory either.
No, that's right.
Winter time.
Well, we stayed there, me and Henry, oh, I don't know, and it was really interesting. What happened is that they had two daughters, and we got into a snowball fight. Of course, I was just a young guy. Which one of the girls in it?
Check on this here, Dolores.
It bothered Mr. Hester, or Mrs. Hester, that we was having a snowball fight. And they're wrestling out in the snow, so we got to fight it. Because for some unknown reason. Well, from there, from there we went. Well, right from there we came back to Monroe for several weeks, and this had to be in 41 or 42. That's when the World War broke out. And Henry enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I stayed here for about a year, and my father got killed in an automobile, a truck accident, in 1943, 42 or 43, and I helped my mom on the farm for a short while, and told my mom, you better find a renter, a tenant for the farm, because I'm going to the army. And she said, you can't do that because you're not 18. Well, I said, won't you fib for me or whatever? She says, well, if that's what you want to do, that's fine with her, you know. So I went in, I enlisted in the army, and I wouldn't have been 18 until July. So this was in May. So I was 17 years old, and I went into service. I wanted to get in the Marine Corps, but I was too light. I couldn't make it a ton of weight. Because at that time, it was pretty rigid about weight in the Marines. So I went in the Army, my second choice. Took my training at Little Rock, Arkansas, and Roper, Alabama, and went to Salinas, California, and went overseas with no furlough. From the time I left, I went right overseas. And I spent my career in the Army in South Pacific. I got into the Marical Division. We was kind of a bastard outfit, that's what they call it. They put us where they needed us. And I went on.
Is the Marical the 96th?
The Marical, yeah.
96th. And by the way, I pounded right over there. I was in the 77th, and I took my training in Little Rock also.
Is that right? Interesting.
Go ahead.
And then from there I went to, of course, then I went into Leyte, Luzon, the Philippines, and Cebu Islands, and it got in about June of 1945. We went into a rigid training for invading the home island. And they was getting us prepared to invade Japan. We was to invade Japan on somewhere around the 2nd or 3rd day of November of 1945. Of course, in the interim, the war had ended.
The bomb came.
The bomb came, and there was the end of the war. And I remember we had to have 146 points to get discharged. I had 140. I had 182. I had way over the points I needed to get home. And I was at the Philippines at the time, and my company, I asked my company commander, I said, I said, I've been over here, I made it, I got hurt a few times, but nothing serious. Is it possible I can re-enlist for about 6 or 8 weeks? I want to go to Japan and see what this is all about. Well, he said, we'll work that out, which was quite interesting, and he did. He gave me an extension, and I went to Japan, and I got some details that was interesting at Mount Fujiyama. I was right to the top of Mount Fujiyama, and that was in October of 1945. See how well they were fortified. It was. I'm thankful that we didn't have to invade that island. I mean, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you people today if that be the case.
there's no doubt in my mind either that without the atomic bomb, you'd never.
And then I came back to Monroe. I do recall that I got discharged in California. I had lost my front teeth. A sniper had, instead of giving his weight position, he hit me over the front of my mouth with a rifle butt. Rather than shooting me to give away his position, he just backed off and he nailed me. It was coming to bang, boom, and I lost his front teeth. So when I got back to California, the guy